Well, for the last IID Award recipient, I'd like to introduce Senator John Horn.
Well, I'll tell you this, Marsha. Jerry doesn't beat you on good looks. Let's give Marsha Thompson a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, she has done a fantastic job for us tonight. And she looks as good in person as she does on TV. Our last award recipient, I met in 1980 on the tennis courts, Dr. Peregrine, of Millsaps College. He was an excellent tennis player who gave me the inspiration to hang up my tennis racket and become a spectator, because I discovered that he was a warrior on the tennis court. And I found out later that he is a warrior on the court of public education. For the last 19 years, I've known Andy Mullins as a, well, if you're in education and state government, they don't call you lobbyist. They call you government relations. I've known him in the field of government relations. But he has formerly worked as a chief of staff, or currently rather works as chief of staff to the chancellor at the University of Mississippi. He's an associate producer of leadership and counselor education and co-director of the Mississippi Teacher Corps. Andy grew up in Macon, Mississippi, and when he finished college, he became a school teacher and an administrator. He got further education after leaving Millsaps at Mississippi College and earned his doctoral degree at Ole Miss. He has served as special assistant to 2 governors and 3 state superintendents of education. And while working on Governor William Winter's staff, he was fully engaged in passage of the 1982 Education Reform Act of the state of Mississippi, which was a landmark piece of legislation that changed public education forever in the state of Mississippi. Andy also wrote a book called Building Consensus that was about the political process behind getting the Education Reform Act passed in the Winter administration. Since 1994, Dr. Mullins has worked with 3 chancellors in various areas of responsibility, including government relations, and he's co-director of the Mississippi Teacher Corps program. And he went from being a teacher to teaching K-12 teachers who are in graduate school at Ole Miss. If I had to describe who Andy Mullins is, I'd say he's the guy behind the guy who is the guy look good. Andy is a man who doesn't care who gets the credit. He's a man who doesn't care about, who does rather care about getting the job done. He's a man of great accomplishment who does his work in the shadows, in the dawn of the day, and in the twilight of the night. And when the job gets done, only the folks from a CSI forensics team will be able to break the case of finding out who got it done when they discover his fingerprints on good works. Ladies and gentlemen, the guy behind the guy who makes the guy who is the guy look good. A warrior for public education, Dr. Andy Mullins.
Thank you so much. Quick story. Mississippi Teacher Corps, I was fortunate enough 22 years ago to be in the beginning of that program and have been connected with it for 22 years. It's a program that attracts liberal arts majors from all around the nation to come to Mississippi, where we train them as best we can And then I'll place them in school districts where, as Hank mentioned, children suffer the devastating effects of poverty. And so one of our goals is to try to help those children overcome the devastating effects that poverty does to our children. And so we train them the best we can. Those of you who work with teachers, Charles, Hank, you all know that determining who's a good teacher is an inexact science at best. But we try our best to train them. We want them, first of all, of course, to like kids. You know, one of the first things, and you'd be surprised, one of the first things I'll say when somebody comes in and says they're interested in teaching, I'll just kind of offhanded say, well, I guess you like kids. And occasionally somebody says, well, not really. And I'll say, well, there's the door. They know this subject area, and we try to teach them classroom management in the short time span that we have. Do they all make good teachers? No. Do they all stay more than the 2-year obligation? No. But there are many stories of great success, and who knows the value that you can put on a life that's been saved. This is a very inspiring program to me. I have put my life into it and really enjoy it. I want to tell you a story that illustrates, it's a great Mississippi story. It illustrates the teacher corps. One year there was a young man who called me. Well, I called him. He had applied to the teacher corps. His name was Jeff Seinfeld, University of Washington, chemistry major. And I called him and I said, Jeff, I'm Andy Mullins with the Mississippi Teacher Corps, and I want to offer you a position in teaching in high schools in Mississippi. He said, well, and I hear this occasionally, he said, well, I'm a little concerned about moving to Mississippi. But it wasn't what you think, and it wasn't what I thought. I said, well, what's the problem? Expecting to hear something else. He said, well, I'm a practicing Jew, and I would like to be placed in a district close to a synagogue. I said, well, we don't do preferential placements. I have to put you where you're needed as a chemistry teacher. And I'll give you a couple of days to think about this, and if that doesn't work, well, good luck to you. He said, well, I'll call you back tomorrow. Let me think about it. Next day he called and said, doesn't matter. I want to come to Mississippi and I want to teach chemistry. So a friend of mine who at that time was a principal in a rural, very rural school district, a good man, a good nuts and bolts principal, a little rough around the edges, but good old Mississippi boy, Billy Joe Ferguson. And I called Billy Joe and I said, Billy Joe, I got you a chemistry teacher. Great, Andy, great. Thank you. Thank you very much. I sure need one. I said, but he's concerned about coming to your school district. So what's the problem? I said, Billy Joe, he's a practicing Jew and you don't have a synagogue anywhere close to your school. Billy Joe said, that ain't no problem. I'm an expert on the Bible. What? I could see the wheels turning in Billy Joe's head. He's going to convert this Jewish boy to Christianity, Southern Baptist style. So Jeff Seinfeld came to this school district, stayed 4 years, revamped the curriculum, was a great teacher, made a difference in many a kid's life, even raised money to remodel, renovate the chemistry lab. Great teacher. Stayed 4 years. Moved on back to Washington. A few years later, Billy Joe's now the superintendent. So I called Billy Joe out of the blue. I knew he needed a teacher. He'd sent me word he needed a math teacher or whatever. So I called him. This is how the conversation went. I said, Billy Joe, Andy Mullins. Andy, hey, you ain't going to believe where I've been. I said, where you been, Billy Joe? I've been to Jerusalem. I said, really? What is a country boy like you going to, why are you going to Jerusalem? He said, I was in Jeff Seinfeld's wedding. And sure enough, he was. They had become great friends studying the Bible. And I said, well, I thought he moved back to Washington. Why'd he get married in Jerusalem? So well, he's studying to be a Hasidic Jew. He had gone as far away from Billy Joe's. I want to thank all of you. I want to thank the Institute for everything that you do. We need more civility in the public arena. We need more toleration. We need more respect for each other and different views. And so I appreciate what you do. And to my good friends, Mahmoud and Fatih, and to the wonderful Turkish community here. What a blessing these kind, gentle people are. To this community and to our state. Thank you all very much.
What an incredible group. That is awesome. We also want to take an opportunity, and we're winding down here, to thank and extend our deepest gratitude to those who are putting this on, to allowing us to embrace other cultures, other thoughts, other religions. So the hosting committee, the planning committee, the institute directors, and the volunteers, please stand, because we would like to thank you for everything that you are doing, for everything that you will be doing in the future. Please stand and applaud them. Here you go. Stand. Whoop, whoop. Thank you all for attending tonight. Thank you for your generous donations and keeping your hearts and your minds open to new and different ideas. Thank you. Peace be with you all. Good night.